Hey guys, it's Dale Anderson. Hope you're keeping well. So yeah, just wanted to give you an update on what's going on in the market. The UK house prices are set to fall as increasing mortgage rates start to hit buying power, as we've seen in the last few weeks. In the last 50 years, there's actually been four major downturns. The oil crisis of 1973, oil shock 1979, interest rates hit almost 15% in 1989. So it's not something new. It sort of seems to happen in cycles. And the financial crisis then of 2008, in each of these downturns, there were some consistent themes. Those were a change in interest rates, rising energy costs, and policy mistakes. All things that sound sort of similar to what's happening now. So what could cause property prices to fall in this time around if things are supposedly different? And, banks have certainly put in stricter policies and regulations since the last downturn. So my thoughts, in the last 50 years, there's been four major downturns we need to look at. There was the oil crisis of 1973, the oil crisis in 1979. There was then the interest rates where they hit all-time highs of almost 15% in 1989, and then the financial crisis of 07 and 08. Each of these downturns had consistent themes. The first was the change of the interest rates, number one, rising energy costs, number two, and number three, policy mistakes. All sounds similar, right? So where are we now? In 1979, they raised interest rates to 17%. It did its job to reduce inflation, but had a negative impact on the UK manufacturing exports. Interest rates began to rise again to the end of the 1980s under house price rise pressure. Interest rates have gone up from 17% in 1979 down to 9% in 1982, back to 14.8% October 1989. Boom financial crisis of 08. So certainly, as you can see, there's a pattern where interest rates do go up, and they've certainly been a lot higher in the past. Banks were happy to accept self-certification. This was one of the problems back then. They'd tell clients could tell how much you could afford instead of the reverse. People would self-certify and say, okay, this is how much I think I could afford without the banks doing checks. It was very unregulated, caused the subprime mortgage crisis in the USA, and as the USA, that's passed over to the rest of the world as usual. So it wasn't great, but mortgages sort of were going out. They were having 100% finance deals were commonplace before. Developers would gift deposits and add it to the price of the house as well. And that caused a housing bubble. Prices went up, they rocketed. People took out equity, they bought fancy cars, luxury holidays. Steady interest rates sort of prevailed. Banks stopped lending as there was a credit crunch then. So after that came the credit crunch where people were just spending too much. So to stop the economy from tanking to depression, the Bank of England dropped interest rates from 5% to 0.5% suddenly after the 08-09 crash. So what has this done? Suddenly properties were worth 25% less than people paid, and people were borrowing huge amounts over the last few years. Banks of today, they are in a much more robust position than before, than the last two downturns, especially they don't let you do the self-certification. So lending's tighter, mortgage lending's tighter. Number two, they've been stress test, and no one's doing the self-certification. What can cause prices to drop this time around? Things are slightly different than before? Well, there's two things. Number one, interest rates. And number two, the cost of living, which is rising. So interest rates have a huge impact on the value of homes. It impacts buying power. It increases the cost of living for people that have less money. If rents continue to go up the way they have been, property experts are running affordability calculations and suggesting house prices now could potentially fall by up to 20%. However, different experts are saying different things. Some are saying 5, some are saying 10. So it's a bit difficult to tell at this stage. There's no exact science. We could be more or less depending on the location and high loan to values. For example, the southeast of England and sort of around the south, we're expecting bigger drops than the cheaper, more value areas such as Liverpool, Manchester, Preston, where prices still seem to be quite steady. So So yeah, there's two groups really in danger here that need to really assess the situation. Number one is your first-time buyers. A lot of people leveraged up on their new homes. They thought they're getting these low borrowing rates and they could afford it, but all of a sudden interest rates are increasing. So that could really stretch their affordability. And group number two is the shared ownership schemes, I believe, paying mortgage and rent. With rents going up plus the mortgages going up, you've been, so double whammy. And then you had this government Bank of England Help to Buy scheme where they sort of loaned investors, but it's time to pay back, plus your interest rates have gone up. So once again, don't be fooled by these government schemes. Make sure that you can afford and stress test your property at interest rates of 5-6%. So where's the market now? Despite interest rates and the cost of living worsening, Zoopla report price increases of 8.1% in the last 12 months to September. Average prices are around now £292,000 across the UK. Zoopla found a number of homes with price reductions recently, having increased nearly 7% of listings, seeing average price cuts of around 5% in the last 2 weeks. We're seeing buyer demand drop off slightly. The south of England, as I said, seeing declines of 40% in buyer demand compared to a decline of just 20% in the northeast and the northwest of England, where properties are of course cheaper. So drop of demand, increase of interest rates. Lloyd's banking group is saying 8% drop in prices. Next year's 0 to negative growth in the next year ahead. Parts of its latest quarterly earnings they expect in Q1 house prices will fall by 0.2%. In Q1, Q2 at 5.8%, Q3 at 7.9%, and a drop in Q4, at 7.9%. So a fairly bleak outlook by Lloyd's. The Bank of England are saying mortgage approvals are on the decline, 74,440 in August and 66,800 in September. So that sort of sums up that there is obviously a decline in mortgages and demand. We are still seeing a lot of activity. Remember, a lot of buyers are cash buyers, but we are seeing more focus on the lower entry areas up north where people can still get a good yield versus holding money in the bank. So there is still definitely activity. On the plus side, positive news, the Bank of England does show credit borrowing is reduced in September. There's an additional £700 million added in consumer credit compared to £1.2 billion in August. So these are the lowest levels since December 2021. Households added 8.9 billion in savings. So people obviously during the pandemic and pre-pandemic, the average suggesting people building cash reserves really for a difficult winter. So people have been perhaps being a bit more conservative with their money and preparing ahead, which is probably a good idea right now. The Office of National Statistics shows 30% of households are unable to afford an unexpected yet necessary spend of £850, up 25% of the end of last year. So, not great for certain individuals. Of course, extra costs, food, gas, energy has gone up. And as I always say, in this current market, what I would say, there are going to be motivated sellers out there. So certainly there are opportunities in crisis, but you need to look now and you need to start acting before things go the other way or start to improve. It's actually a great time to be a buyer or an investor. I think there'll be some good deals out there, but liquidity is key. We are seeing mortgage rates start to drop slightly as the sort of the market settle. There is more lenders coming to the market as Rishi Sunak has come in and installed a little bit more stability or confidence in the government than we had a few weeks ago. So that sums it up from me. If you like this news, if you found it informative, please subscribe to my channel. There'll be a lot of more information coming your way, a lot of giveaways. We're going to be running some really interesting strategies in future through a company that I'm a director of, Fabric Invest, where people can be making money through property without actually needing money to invest. So lots of things happening. And please click subscribe, click the like button. There's also a free latest UK property guide in the description below, so have a read. We hope you liked the video. Enjoy the rest of your day and take care. Thanks.